We aren't afraid of taking risks or doing what no one else is doing. We are a group of great people doing great things. Innovation, empowerment, sustainability, partnerships, perseverance. This is all part of our DNA. Since 1988, we have been pioneering a new way in HVAC solutions, and we want to share our stories with you. Expect a diverse range of episodes, from technical deep dives to uplifting stories, along with insightful discussions about the HVAC industry landscape as we see it at AAON. This is a deeper look inside AAON.
Welcome everybody to Inside AAON. My name is Derby, your host for today, and with me, keeping me out of trouble, I have Whitney Tapp. Whitney, say hi.
Hi.
Did we get any call from HR last time?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we're good then. And we have two strong leaders at AAON, Jen Overmeyer and Whitney Wakefield. Welcome to Inside AAON, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you guys. So today, we're going to talk about yet another thing that makes AAON different as a company. And it's the fact that we welcome traits in people and in areas of our business that is normally not welcome or in some cases neglected. And that is the creativity side of our business. How do we embrace creativity in an industry that is both rigid and very structured? So I'm very excited for this topic. I think you guys are two of the best people to talk about that. But before we dig into that topic, I want to talk about your background. What do you do at AAON? And what is your background? What took you here? So Jen, let's start with you.
So I started with AAON 17 years ago as a 6-month temp. So this was my job while I figured out what I wanted to do after moving to Oklahoma. Moved here from Chicago. I drafted in college and saw a drafting ad in the newspaper 17 years ago when we had newspapers. So applied at AAON, and I really quickly fell in love with it. I liked the people. I liked the vibe there. I never thought about commercial HVAC as a career option, but worked my way through the drafting department, have had multiple different careers, like full careers at AAON. So worked in drafting, worked in copper design, unit design, worked a lot with our reps in the sales department, line engineering, and then my current position as a senior quality manager. So I've really been around a lot and
That's
learned
awesome.
to love it.
You did it all. Where are you originally from? Chicago?
Chicago.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And why did you move to Tulsa?
My daughter was in grade school looking for a cheaper option. If anybody lives in the north or around a big city, there is no cheaper option.
Exactly.
So we ran out of cornfields. I'd honestly been to Oklahoma once. I had a friend that got married here, so I bought a house on my second trip to Tulsa. It was a little bit of shell shock. Moved here the year Discovery did the noodling episode, so I had a lot of calls from back home that they were concerned about where I'd moved and the
Where
choices
are you
I'd made.
moving?
Do you have indoor plumbing?
Yeah.
Why are they fishing, getting
With their
food with their
hands?
hands? So a lot of questions up front, but I love Tulsa now. It's
Yes.
definitely grown on me.
Well, I'm new to Tulsa and I actually love it too. A lot of people ask me the same thing. Even reps were like, why are you moving to Tulsa? And actually, I love it now that I'm here.
Yeah, it's a great
My
city.
wife loves it too. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your background. How about you?
Well, like Jen, I've had many roles at AAON. I started out also in drafting right out of college, just same situation. I knew someone from high school who worked at AAON and got an interview and was like, well, this will do me for now. And then I ended up staying 13 years, and here I plan on retiring here. So
From beginning to end.
Yes.
In our generation, that doesn't happen.
I know, it's very unusual.
Yeah.
So my current title is Executive Director of Production Planning and Materials.
Awesome.
But I've had, many roles, just like Jen, in very similar departments.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. You give a good name to all the Whitneys at the company.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. It was really great when when we get confused. I'm like, well, at least she's such an amazing Whitney there and has such a good name behind her. Can't make Whitney sound bad.
Yeah, didn't want to be like another Whitney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
that's terrible.
Another one of those.
That's awesome. Well, I love to hear the background. I started at AAON at a very, very young age too as an intern, and hopefully I'll retire from here too. Cool. Well, Whitney and I both work in the marketing department, so it's an area of our business that you're expected to be creative. It's a requirement, right? But we actually do have limitations too.
Yeah, and we have guidebooks we have to follow. We have to use certain fonts, colors.
Yeah, so we might be the creative kids, but we also have our own limitations. So, but it's a little harder to relate to what you do in a day-to-day basis. And I wanted to hear, while you guys are very creative, what are some of the limitations that you have in your individual areas of the business?
Well, for me, it's all the SOX controls, and I'm in charge of the inventory. So there's all kinds of regulations surrounding that with auditors, and there's a lot of rules to follow in that regard. So that's definitely a limitation.
Yeah, for sure. How about yourself?
For me, I've got quality standards, I've got performance standards, a variety of different metrics, but within those metrics, staying flexible so that we have the ability to adapt, so that if an issue arises, if an opportunity arises, we have that flexibility to move around, to pivot, and just be ready to take those opportunities. And it's definitely a lot harder to be creative than it would to say, this is the red tape, this is the structure, and I don't care what happens, we're going to do this thing because in 1982, somebody decided that was the correct process. That's how all the companies fold. That's how those big names that we all grew up with don't exist anymore. So it's cool to work with a company where you can go have a conversation with an executive about doing something differently, about an opportunity that you want to take advantage of, but maybe it's not something that we've looked at before or something that we have structures in place for. And actually conversing about them rather than saying it's black or white and those are the two places you get to live.
Yeah, finding a solution that might not be on the book and might give you a higher return on the investment, right?
Yeah.
It's all about that.
So do you find it like very difficult to kind of like balance that like structured environment, but then you also want to like introduce that innovation and creativity and...
Well, I mean, I think that's where AAON thrives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of our natural, strengths is all the flexibility we have.
Yeah.
We pivot so easily, as Jen said. For such a large company, we operate in a smaller, like kind of family type environment almost.
Yeah, I think we hire, we promote, and we really protect that flexibility, that innovation. And I think it's culture at this point. Like it's so ingrained in us that we're not just going to do what we did last year. We're not going to relax because we had this record-breaking year. So we can take a break this year and not do anything creative. We're always pushing ourselves, always challenging. And I think it's so ingrained in us at this point. It's almost hard to just like follow the norm.
Yeah.
Because we're so against it almost.
Yeah.
I think you hit on the nail there when you say it's culture, because it's almost also our DNA to be creative, to be innovative. But also we had an episode not a couple of months ago about failure and how failure is welcomed. Well, creativity comes a huge threat to fail, and you need to be okay with it, right? So I love that we have
support.
that culture. Yeah.
And AAON definitely has a culture of like not punishing people for making mistakes.
Yes.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
It's really
I'm not
easy to
scared
say,
mess up.
go out on a limb, try something new. Oh, but it didn't work out. So now we're going to have repercussions.
Yep.
No, you have that support. You've got that safety net behind you, which is amazing.
And there's always someone there with like a crazier story.
Right.
Like, you think that's bad? Let me tell you about what happened in like 83.
That's awesome. Yeah, Mark Fly was talking about it and not being afraid of making the mistake. Be creative, be innovative. And if you do, just be the first one that acknowledges and you own it.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. So I want to go back a little bit when you started leading your own departments. I would assume with a lot of engineers, a lot of more maybe type A or structure team members, and you coming into from a more creative, more diverse background. How was that? Did you get any pushback?
I mean, a little, but not as much as you might think. I think AAON's just very open and welcoming to different kinds of leadership. And honestly, managing engineers, they don't want to lead most of the time. You know, they kind of want to. So they're very accepting.
Yeah, good. How about you?
It definitely, I was a natural introvert and then
I just don't believe.
Yes.
17 years
Not
later,
really.
no one believes me. But I remember the first time we had a presentation and there were three of us that got pulled into Stephen Wakefield's office. And he said, okay, one of the three of you needs to present this to 400 people. And one of the guys almost threw up on his shoes. The other guy started explaining how badly he'd do and how that was the worst thing. And I was like, well, I guess by default, I'm going to learn to be an extrovert.
Yeah.
And did it and didn't die.
Right.
So then did it again. And now it's become part of me that I'm comfortable with it because other people are less comfortable with it. Sure. So it was kind of a weird take one for a team and change your entire personality.
Yeah.
I've heard her tell this story. I still do not
No one
believe
believes it. You can ask Wakefield and Rudy because he
Well, I
almost
know
threw
you
up on
did
his
it. I'm
shoes.
just saying, I don't think you've ever been an introvert in your life.
It's actually, I hear a lot of stories of people that come across as very extroverted, that they're like, yeah, I do it because it's expected.
Right.
I learn to enjoy it because I practice enough. But naturally, I'm more of an introverted.
Right.
And it's go back to where you get our energy or not.
Yep. I think she's more extroverted than me, which is why this conversation's always funny.
You never know.
Socially, you're more extroverted.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, so back to the business of creativity. There is a phrase that people talk about all the time, and that's thinking outside the box. And thinking outside the box, I mean, it means a lot. It depends on your perspective and where you work. But at the same time, it can get a little bit cheesy because it's the same thing with the word innovative. Anybody can say that they're innovative, but you practice it. So think about thinking outside the box. How do you apply to your job?
I think it's looking at all of the options that are out there and not just doing what's right for me, what's easiest for me. Like, it would be so easy to go in my office, close the door, pull up all my beautiful spreadsheets and metrics and make decisions on what was best for everybody based on my perspective and my team and what I wanted. But grabbing all those other teams, getting other people involved, going out to the shop floor and seeing what actually happens in the wild, talking to reps, talking to salespeople, and getting all that information to make a decision based on what's best for everybody, which is never going to be the easiest because then you've got all these different personalities and opinions. Just doing what I did yesterday and living inside these 6 little walls was never an option because that's how we are where we are, is we took other insights, we took other people's opinions. Nobody lives in a silo and does what's best for them. We're always pulling other people's opinions. Yeah. Like, there's never an hour that I can close the door and not have somebody come in and ask a question or ask for insight on something.
You know, when you were talking about that, it came to mind too also that it may be a great solution today, but that solution might not be the same tomorrow.
No.
And you have to be able to be flexible. And so you may have a great idea, but it doesn't work every time. So, yeah, I love that. How about you? What do you think about the thinking outside the box?
Well, I like to use this example because it's just quintessential AAON. During the supply chain crisis, we had part shortages all the time, right? Well, one of the part shortages we couldn't get damper blades. So in order to continue shipping and delivering to customers on time, we took the damper blades off of our brand new $30 million lab and put them in customer units. Mm-hmm. So we eventually replaced them. But that's just like, we're like, oh, let's just take them off the building. Yeah. It's more important to deliver to the customer than it is to have damper blades in our lab.
I always say that, like, when it comes to your team, it feels like no is not an answer.
Yeah, it's not.
Is there even a box?
No.
No box.
Well, when we had lunch a couple of days ago and talked about this, I love that you said, well, I was never told that there were limitations. I was never told that there was a box, so I didn't even think of it. Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, it opens your mind to whatever. Yeah. That as long as you keep in mind your limitations and you're under the regulations, why not, right?
Boundaries, not limitations.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, thank you for the example, and I want to dig a little more into the example in real life, and I really want to focus on, like, was there a solution to a problem that you had that you took a creative approach and you believe you received a greater return on the investment because of it?
I mean, that's like an everyday occurrence, practically. I can't even think of one. I mean, the damper blade one's good, but I mean, that's just, every single day we have something like that. I don't know. Do you have a specific example?
There have been so many. We had, also during COVID, we had an order come in on a Sunday and were able to process it based on products that we had in-house. And like, from that Sunday order to it being in New York City was 2 weeks turnaround time.
Oh, it was less than that.
Yeah.
How many units was it?
50.
Yeah.
Which is unheard. I mean, no one else in the industry could do that.
Yeah, anybody else,
most places shut down.
Yeah, you wouldn't have answered the phone on a Sunday, much less taken an order and said, well, we can't do that. But if we change these parameters, if we restructure this, these are pulling the motors that we had, the compressors we had, looking at our stock and figuring out how we could build 50 units. And the number of people that got pulled into a room to make that happen, whereas usually it would just be order processing, living in their little box saying, no, I can't do that because it's outside of the rules. The rules say this is how long it takes.
We don't have that part.
Right. Instead, the right person took the call and got everybody in a room and said, this is going to happen figure out how.
That's wild.
Which is
Especially to
amazing.
get it to New York, because it's so hard to get a unit there anyway.
Right.
Like the shipping. Like to get it there in 2 weeks, that's crazy.
That's
was
amazing.
awesome.
And I think you talk about not doing things in silo, and that has to do a lot, not only because you take into consideration things that you may not be faced to on a day-to-day basis, but also because being creative and innovative, I think is contagious. I think when one department sees the other one doing something, like, I want my department to do that, right? I want to be cool like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a big thing in a lot of companies, you've got that silo. You've got one person in a room making a decision, and then they lay out the entire plan and release it to marketing.
Yeah.
And then go to the executives and say, well, marketing's not on board with my plan. How are you going to be a team player if you don't know you're on the damn team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they make these decisions for other groups and then give it to them and say, well, it failed because of them, not because of me.
Correct.
We start the other way and we do the work up front and we get everybody involved. We get buy-in. We find out what works for you guys, what's good for you, and then make a plan that might not have all of my priorities in it, but work for the company.
Yeah.
So it's really very holistic, like an overall what's the best for everyone versus I want credit, I want what's right for me.
Yeah.
We're looking at involving everyone.
And I know like upper managers have come from other companies, from some of our competitors. They come to AAON and they're shocked by how much we work together, how much we know about other departments.
Yes.
There's a lot of culture shock for new hires.
Yeah. Keeping people on name for different reasons. But I do know of an upper management guy that came over and told a story about a meeting that you were part of it, Larry Hunnell was part of it, and he was just very impressed on how well the departments work together and how they were able to understand, okay, what I do may affect your department and how can we...
And also how informal we are.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, we are definitely not stuffy and
No,
like
you
a
see
typical.
the executives walking around, and they're not always dressed up in suit and ties.
We keep it real.
Yeah.
We keep it real at AAON.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. It's got like a mom and pop vibe where you've got access to your executives, but you have that foundation, that structure of being a large company.
Yeah. And I experienced that moving to Tulsa and being able to have more resources and seeing how the sky is truly the limit. While I was in controls in Kansas City, it's not that I had limitations, but it was hard to see it when you were not in headquarters. So I think we should go a little bit more into quality and creativity in quality, because that's something that is really interesting. And I'll start it with standards, because when it comes to quality, standard is a word that we use a lot. And when I think of standard, I think something that is rigid, something that is written into rules, and it must remain unchanged.
Yeah, especially with AAON, we're known, like it's synonymous for like, premium quality, high standards, the top of the line. So keeping those standards can be, I imagine, a challenge.
Can you push that idea that standard has to be rigid and creativity should not be part of it? Tell me a little bit about that, because
It is like there are two different sides there. So you want to be creative, you want to be flexible, but I have certain metrics I need to meet. Every day I can look at my quality reports, my warranty reports, what I'm looking at for audits. So I have all of this data that I'm held accountable to, but I have customers that want something new, something that pushes the boundaries, or we have a unit come up that we need to hot ship something. We need to change something because we have a part that's not available, or we've got a different option that we're going to lead. So how do I have these structures and that creativity? And it's a lot of work. Like, it is something that I constantly have to push on my engineers. They'll bring me something that they've created on their own that looks like it works. And it's like, that's great. Take it to production. See how that works in manufacturing. Take that over to engineering and see if that's sustainable. So getting that buy-in early. And also, we have multiple languages on the floor. So a lot of other companies have work instructions that are in English, and it's paragraphs long of dry technical data. That won't work with us because we have people from a variety of backgrounds, from different educations. So we've adapted our work instructions to accommodate that. So we've got a lot of pictures. We've got a lot of hands-on training. We created an entire training group as more of a mentor. So you're apprenticing people that are on the line, so that we've got that one-on-one interaction. When somebody doesn't speak a language, we'll partner with them with somebody that has better comprehension of English, so that they've got somebody they can lean on. So we just see an obstacle and we're like, okay, how do we fix it? Not, oh, that's a you problem. Like, you don't speak English, so that's a you problem. How do we train you? How do we partner you with the right person to succeed? And if it doesn't work, we try again. So it's a lot of adapting and moving.
And one thing I'll say about Jen's group, I think it's very easy for the quality department to come in as like a dictator to production or, you know, and Jen is the best about having a customer service mentality. She treats production like a customer, just like the end user of the product.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've seen a lot of, and I struggle with that when I hire people from outside because there is very much, I mean, dictator is a perfect word.
Yeah.
There's a culture of quality as a dictator. Like, I am in control. I set the standard. I do this. Again, if I set a standard arbitrarily and hold you to it, what interest do you have in that? That's my standard. That's my arbitrary number. So I collaborate with engineering. Like, did you design this product to be held to this standard? This is the standard I want. Did you design it to that product? Do we have the tools? Do we have the training? So making sure we have everything in place so that people can succeed rather than just saying, this is the bar, pass or fail by what I say. I'm actually working with those other groups and making sure they succeed.
There's something that you said about training and pairing people. There's a double benefit there because you're helping the person that needs the training, but the person that is giving the training gets training to how to be a leader, but also that pride of like, I know how to do it. Let me show you. It means a lot.
And you learn from teaching somebody because somebody asks a question. It's like, oh, I don't know why I do it that way. Maybe your way is better. We've actually got a structure in place so that anybody on the production floor, anybody at AAON can make a suggestion. So engineering change notice, somebody that's new to the shop, that's been in the shop for 20 years can say, hey, what if we did this? Or every time I assemble these two pieces, I have to take this extra step, or I have to pull in a specialized tool. And we design, quality, production gets together every 2 weeks and goes out there to the shop and meets with those people. Says, okay, you had this idea, walk me through it. Let's see what works. And it's taking the people that can make the change to where the change needs to happen. And that's not something you see. Most companies are manufactured in one state, quality's in a different state, your leadership somewhere else, and they never get together. Like, we're out together on the shop floor all the time. And that's such a benefit to us.
At AAON Controls, they implemented this whiteboard in which people report mistakes or errors that they have found, and they truly had changed the culture of reporting errors because in the past, people like felt a little intimidated, showing like, am I going to get in trouble? Am I talking on somebody? Am I? And reverse, we celebrated the error in a way that we found it, and then those people get a prize at the end of the month for who found the most errors and so on. So it's actually, it's a really nice way to change the culture. And
that's so contrary to most big companies where it's, you made a mistake, you're out. Like, one and done.
Or push it under the carpet.
Yeah. No, our executives, like you said, there's so many stories out there of, I tried this and it did not work. So I tried something else. But that's how we've gotten where we are, is trying that and it didn't work, so trying something else.
So the both of you work in an area of the business that normally stays backstage. I would imagine, or I'm pretty certain that distributors and reps, they don't know by name who the person in charge of purchasing or the person in charge of quality is, and they don't even have a relationship with them. But you guys are very different.
Yes.
We bring the backstage up front. I see you both at rep events all the time. I know the reps know you by name and everything. So I want to hear why. Why do you spend the time, and what are the benefits of you guys being so active in the front line?
Some of the reps have my personal cell phone number and call when they need something. They have Jen's number. It just humanizes the whole company. I know the reps have repeatedly said they would rather deal with AAON because, the small company feel. We have that personal interaction. The customer service aspect, all of that. It really works to our benefit. They would rather deal with that than they call and you get a recording, or you get an
the
auto
customer service
email.
line.
Call center like somewhere else.
Yeah. And in fact, Jen and I are going to New York next week to visit one of the rep firms.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about the aspect of putting a face to those names? Most companies in our industry, which is fine, is a more of a cookie cutter style. They build units and then they eventually find a customer to it. Right. our units are built for a specific customer, for them. Knowing that that unit goes to a person and you know that person's name,
Right.
you know their face, their team. How does does that make it different day to day for you guys?
It does. I love driving through Tulsa on the IDL, and you can see the AAON units on top of all those buildings, and looking through our schedule and seeing different names that I know and different companies that I've worked with, and meeting with the reps and knowing what they need. And that's like, it's a benefit for both of us. Not only does it help them when they have questions, we know their background, what's worked for them, how they're applying the unit, so that we can steer them towards different specials that they might need, different options that they might not have used in the past, and really gear it towards what's going to be best for them.
And when you see names on, on a list, on a schedule, and you know who they are, it just makes you want to do something a little extra special.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It happens the same with training. My department works a lot with the training, and knowing that they're coming and creating a relationship is phenomenal. There are many words that I can think when I think of AAON and the rep force. One of them is partnership. The value that we put in it, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Innovation, of course, and creativity as well. But one is that we are very solution driven, and we want to help. And we're all in it for obvious reason. We work because we need to make a living. But at the end of the day, when we go home and we know that we help somebody, it's just...
There's a lot of pride.
Yes.
Yeah.
And especially when we had the new marketing area get released, taking people from production out to see AAON units, and we've got competitors' units out there too.
Yeah.
So somebody that maybe started with AAON in manufacturing out of high school and has never seen a competitor's unit, their faces light up when they see the unit that they build against our competition. And put that in some big old quotes, because that is not competition. But just seeing what other companies consider quality, what other companies consider innovation. It's like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Now look at our unit and look at what, there is so
Definitely
much pride.
promotes pride. Yeah, pride in
absolutely.
what they're doing.
Yeah. When you guys do your training, and I attended to one of your trainings just to see how I can help with the PowerPoints and the video. And one thing that I thought it was really important is that you didn't teach only the how, but the why.
Right.
And the why thing sticks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, another part of the culture is that you get more buy-in when you understand. If you just tell somebody to do something, there's not much buy-in there. But if you explain what happens if you do it this way, what happens if you do it incorrectly, what the repercussions and the benefits are, then they understand how they affect the quality, how they affect the performance.
Yes.
And you've got more reason to do it correctly.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, spending some time with us.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yes.
I'm sure we can spend a lot more time, but we have limited amount of time.
Yes. And we kept you out of HR. Nothing went awry, so we're still
That's
good.
always great. But before we finish, there is a way that we like to finish every podcast, and it's to ask you, what does AAON mean to you? So do you want to get us started?
Wow, on the spot.
Yeah.
AAON is, like I said, I didn't start here realizing I was going to be here, but it's definitely become a destination. I've had people kind of tease me about the way I interview because I am so passionate about the company, and it's a place that you can come to and retire from. Like, there's so much internal advancement, there's so much innovation, and in this economy, there is so much stability, which is so important. So I think it really is a destination, and it's a family. It's great.
You stole mine.
What does that mean to you?
I was going to say family. I was going to say home. I feel at home there.
It is.
So I'll keep mine short and sweet. Family, home.
Family home. Home is a good one
Yeah.
because we joked about within the department, we took some funny pictures, and we said AAON, a place where you can be who you are.
Yeah.
And it was it's a joke. You know what I'm talking about, right?
We're going to have to show them that later.
I'm going to show you the picture
Oh,
later.
see.
But it's real. It's a place where you just come and you're yourself. You bring the best every day, and you go
I
from
think
there.
people forget you spend a third of your life at work.
Yeah.
And hearing like friends that are just miserable at their
Yes.
work. Why would you want to be miserable
Yeah.
for 33% of your life? So having someplace, I mean, we have tough days and we work hard, but also having those relationships, having that camaraderie, and having a team that you can rely on and that relies on you. It's great. It's definitely a family.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're lucky to have you both. We're lucky to be at AAON.
Thanks for having us.
No,
thank
I'm
you.
excited. Awesome. Whitney, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
And to our audience, I want you to remember something. Thinking outside the box is just the beginning. The true goal is to eliminate the box. Get rid of it.
Yeah, throw away the box.
Yes. Whitney, say bye.
Bye.